Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Well, I've got a very strange airplane, I guess for lack of a better word, to show you guys today. This is a kit that we're going to be building up on this video. This is a new kit from Amusing Hobby. This is the Focke-Wulf Triebflügel. And I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, but it kind of looks like that in English. So this is a German 1946 airplane, and German 1946 is a term that we used when it's something that was thought up by the Germans at the end of the war. I don't think it got any farther than a drawing on a piece of paper, but it's a very unusual airplane. So what this would do is, this is the way it would take off. So these wings would spin around here with these jet engines on it, and it would lift itself up in the air, and then it would rotate, very similar to the way our Osprey does it now, and then it would fly like this. But with the engines turned sideways, and it would go hauling butt this way across the sky. Had cannons in the top and stuff, and then it would come back down and be able to land just like that. So something very different, to say the least, on it there. So this is, like I said, a brand new kit. It's been a lot of fun building it. It's a very simple kit, and if you want to watch the rest of the video, you'll see how it goes together. So let's get started. Okay, we're building up the three wing sections right now, and as you can see, it's pretty easy. There is one little error inside the instructions. Super simple to put together, but they don't call out putting in this little engine piece in the back, which if you don't, you'll have the top piece in that if it's looking straight up, you'll be able to see it fine, but through the back of it, you would not see anything inside. So don't forget to go ahead and put that piece inside, and I'll show you how that goes. The wings go together real easily. We've just cut these two off, glued them together with a little bit of clamp on it there, and then we can go ahead and sand the leading and trailing edge on it. The motor piece inside there, actually this one's already ready to go, so we're doing a little bit more sanding on it, but that's the way the engine's going to look inside there. And then there'll be a center band that'll click right in like this, that you'll be able to, it's really a tight fit. What I'm going to do is, there's this little round circle thing. It doesn't call out to use it, but I think what we'll do too is we will go ahead and put that inside here, pull this out, and then glue this into place just the way it is here, to give it a little bit more meat inside the piece to hold that wing on. Like I said, it doesn't call it out in the instructions, but it looks like it's an extra piece that we don't need. So we'll let that dry just like that, and then we'll be able to slide the wing back in and have it a little bit more sturdy inside there. Now you're watching me put together the wing here, and you'll notice I didn't cut any of those little extra barbs off there, and I don't do that for one reason. I want to sand those off after the wing has been put together. That way we don't accidentally create any divot in the wing, especially on soft plastic like this. So use a little capillary action on that side, and we're going to do the same over here. I did put a touch of glue down to begin with, and that was just to make it a little tacky. Kind of open and close that. There. And then looks like this side's sealed up enough. We're going to let this set up for a few minutes, and that's basically how we go together. And then once we get this fully dry, couple hours, we'll come back and sand these off right here and get it nice and smooth, like we did on this one right here. Okay, while the wings are drying too, the center hub piece will go together just like this, and you do not glue the center hub. The two outer hubs get glued together, and that way once we get this together like that, you'll be able to spin the outer wings on it here. So we were just dry fitting it here. We got to do a little sanding here and there on it, but that's kind of cool that you will be able to spin the outside hub on it. So I'll go ahead and get this glued, the center piece, just the two centers, the top and bottom centers glued together. And as you can see, we're still letting those little rings dry in there to give it a little extra meat to grab onto when we glue the wings into place. Okay, we're getting the parts ready for the cockpit, and to say the least, the cockpit is rather sparse. There isn't a heck of a lot of stuff going on there. There's our instrument panel, our control stick, the seat, and most of it's not going to get seen anyway too. It's kind of a small narrow cockpit canopy that's on there. So we'll paint this all up. We'll glue these parts into place and paint it the German gray for the interior, and then we'll start weathering it a little bit and get that all put together right now. Okay, we threw some dark gray paint on the cockpit, and then on the inside pieces, like up in the wheel well here, we painted RLM gray, as well as the inside of those. I guess they're wheel bays on it because they're going to be open in this position. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a little bit of a lighter color gray that I've put on the brush, taking most of it off. I'm just going to dry brush some highlights before we do any other painting on this. And you can see it starts to make things pop out a little bit, give it a little bit of detail, especially when we're going to be looking inside there. Hopefully we'll be able to see some of the stuff that's going on in there. And we'll work on that a little bit more too. But now with that done, we can go ahead and glue the other side of this piece on. And there's pins in there to make sure those lock into place. And also we have the, lack of a better word, landing gear here. These are 4 of these that are going to get glued in just like that as soon as we're done sanding and putting them together the rest of the way. So you can see it'll stand up just like that. So I'll go ahead and get this fuselage glued together. The wings are in 2 parts, a left and right side, plus this rod here that comes out can be put either all the way in for flying or out, and then put the little wheel on the end of it down there. Okay, we've painted up the cockpit and put a little bit of detail inside there. Plus I had an old pilot figure that we put inside there as well to give it a little bit of detail. And as you can see, it's a very small opening for the cockpit, so other than the pilot and a little bit of stuff like that, you're not really going to notice much of it. Now I've glued the tail fins on, and we can go ahead and glue this piece in right here. What you want to do on this is pop this down slightly so this is exposed, and then you can line it up, glue this in there. It's got a little slot. Let that fully dry, keeping this above, and then you can go back and do the other way when it sticks out just a little bit. That way this piece will still spin. We definitely want this piece to still spin around there, and then the cockpit will get fitted right into place here. So now that we have our basic part of our cockpit, we can go ahead and glue this inside, as well as the other side of it on here, the fuselage. Hopefully we'll see how this actually fits. Looks like it's lined up in there. I might have this off wrong, but oh, there, yeah. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but might have to put some glue and some clamps on it, or we can also try to adjust it a little bit inside there. Maybe shave down those pieces just a hair just to get it to fit in there a little bit tighter. But like I was showing you, not much other than the pilot and a little bit of the instrument panel is showing. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on this and see if we can get this to fit in there. And once we get it glued together, I will glue this on to this, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like that. Okay guys, so we've got a little bit of a jump ahead here in the fact that we put everything together, including the little bulbous things here that hold the landing gear. When they close up, they'll completely enclose the landing gear if it was real. Also the same thing for these down here that would hold the bottom landing gear. Now I've just gone over it and I've just sprayed a coat of NATO black on it. 2 reasons. First, it's going to be our shadow coat. But I also wanted to check out any places that I need to do some repair work. This is a very basic kit. This is not going to be like a super detailed kit that's going to have tons of different stuff on it. So it's going to give you the generic lines of the model. It's not a bad model. It fits together pretty good. It's just not having a ton of detail like an interior and things like that. But I don't think that's how it was designed. I think it was designed to kind of show the general shape of the vehicle. So we've got that all put together. We just, like I said, put a rough coat on there, mainly to see if I need to touch up any panel lines or do any more sanding, which I already see a few little spots that I need to do. So I will go ahead and sand those out, smooth them out, and we'll be using, usually starting off with like Tamiya 400 grit and then working our way all the way down to like 2000 grit, the foam sanding pads. And that'll really clean up any of the areas that we have. But because we don't want to take away too much detail. I already had to go back in one spot, and I can't remember exactly where it was, but had to rescribe a panel line because I got a little too aggressive with the sanding on it. But it was just a minor little one on it. So I'll go ahead and do all that. We'll put one more coat of black paint on it for the shadow coat, and then I'll come back, and when we start painting, we will do our highlight coat with white. And not quite sure what I'm going to do on the camouflage yet, but we'll think about that for a little while. And as soon as I start to paint it, I'll come back and show you guys. And here is the model all painted. We used a light grayish blue that I mixed up myself. So I used 85% white and 15% of intermediate blue to make the base coat, kind of like a ghosty gray. And then for the spots on it, I used RLM 75 Grau Violet, and went over that. And one other thing that you didn't see me do is, since this is a what if, I pictured the nose part being a yellow as an air identification, that if it was ever flying over its own territory, guys look up and see what's this weird thing up here and don't shoot it down. At least with the yellow chin on it there, they might not, because it's at least air recognition that it belongs to your own group. Now that we have the model painted and sealed with dull coat to seal in our paint job, now we can go ahead and put our decals on, and they give you a wide variety of decals here. They've got the low visibility ones, which we'll probably use on this since it's kind of the ghost pattern that we put on here. And really like this little devil guy with the yellow and red. I think that'll stick out nice against the side of the airplane, and maybe use something like this, not sure yet, but we'll definitely be using these, and then we'll figure out how we're going to do the rest of the decals. But should add some nice little pop onto the side of it. One other thing I should point out to you guys too is the plane technically is supposed to fly like this, with the cockpit going forward right here. So any of the markings that they would normally be on the side of like a Focke-Wulf 190 or an Messerschmitt 109 are actually going to be right in this area here. So it still does fly kind of like a regular airplane. The props will have been spun and things like that, but we'll still put all of our markings in this area. Now I'm not going to show the entire process of applying the decals because there's going to be a lot of them, but we're always going to put our Mark Fit Strong down first because there's a lot of rivet detail on here that we want to copy through. And these decals come off the paper very quickly, so don't leave them in there too long or they'll be floating in the water before you know it. And there's one long rivet line that goes down the middle here. We're going to use that to line up the decal. Some of the excess water off here. Finish straightening it out, and then as soon as we're done straightening it out, we will let it dry for a few minutes and then put a coat of Mark Fit Strong on top of that, and that should soak it in strong enough, maybe even 2 or 3 to get it to fully fit into all those little cracks. But it'll do a nice job on there, and we'll have some nice decals that will clear coat over once it's all completely decaled. The decals are still drying. We're putting a few more coats of the Mark Fit on, but this gives you an idea what the decals are going to look like once on. Here we are, guys. Here is our completed model. First thing I want to talk to you guys about first before we talk about the model itself is I went over the entire thing with Starship streaking grime effect and thinned it down a little bit more with enamel thinner and then did a wash over the entire thing. This is kind of a nice unusual dark gray, we'll call it, because it's very similar to the dark gray 75 that we used on it, and went and did the entire model and then wiped off all the excess, of course, which you guys have seen me do before. The thing is, I filmed all of that. Unfortunately, there's something corrupt about that little piece of film. I can't get it to work at all, so obviously I did do it, as you can see it on here. So let's first turn the turntable on now, and we'll give you guys a little 360 of the entire model. To start off, the model itself it's a very basic model. There is not a heck of a lot of parts like we talked about early. There's a little bit of fit issues of getting the fuselage together. I had to trim down a little bit of the cockpit to get it to fit in there properly, and then do a little putty here and there. But overall, nothing incredibly difficult on it. And it's also a very good representation of a 48 scale Focke-Wulf Triebflügel. Okay, let's take a look at the airplane in the position that it would have flown, which is similar to this right here. The engines would have been turned around for flying mode, and in fact, that's one thing I should point out to you too. Initially, I was telling you guys that you could make it so that part spun, and the connection point for gluing was not very much, so I chose to go ahead and just glue it all together so we didn't have any catastrophic failures later on, having the nose fall off or something. Also, just went ahead and glued the wings into a stabilized position too, because we're going to mainly keep it in display mode, you know, standing on its end. But this is strictly just to show you what it looks like this way. And we'll kind of just do a little quick 360 around that. I did a little bit of brown weathering up underneath, although it's probably never going to get really seen, you know, to duplicate like dirt and stuff that would have accumulated underneath there from taking off. And as you can see, it's just a very unusual looking airplane. Now, also too, I didn't go very heavy on any other type of weathering like chipping, anything like that, because I wanted to make it look like it was more, you know, of a new type model. It was something that wasn't used. It was something 1946, and this has just come out. So there'll be a little bit of dirt and grime on it, but not too much of everything else. And like I was telling you guys, I had a lot of fun doing this. It's a very unusual paint job. It's something different. It's not a real airplane, so we can do whatever we want to it, and it's not wrong. Even though some people probably will tell us that it's wrong in one way or another. But seriously, I did have a lot of fun, and that's the most important. That's the thing I hope you guys take away from all of my videos, that you should be having fun doing this. This is a fun, relaxing hobby, and if it's not, you might be doing it wrong. But I did. And even with a little bit of flaws here and there, it still turned out to be, I think, a decent model. So I want to thank you guys as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have many more videos coming.